So what's good, TMG? You know what? Maybe I need to calm down. I might need to talk a little lower. Some people may be still a little bit hungover from New Year's, right? So what? What's good, TMG fam? It's your boy Ellen. I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute, man. Listen, bro, I hope y'all enjoyed y'allself and kept it safe on New Year's, man. It's crazy to think we already in 2022, man. So with that being said, we're going to keep it moving. Next up on the blacklist, shout outs to that chapter, is the disturbed case of Rod Ferrell. Oh, it's that time, y'all. So if you're new to the channel for the first time, 2022, join the fam, all right? Once you do that, we got to acknowledge these haters for the first time in 2022, y'all. We got to acknowledge the haters. Moment of silence for the haters. That's enough. Now, run the lights up. Let's get to the video.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, we are, well, it's that time of the year. We're talking spooky. It is October. When I'm posting this, hey. Let me know what month it is when you're watching this in the comments below. And as it is the month of the pumpkin, let's look at some more spookier, cases. And what? Tell me, what is spookier than the vampire? You'll see more of him later. A feral vampire. Stick on your cringe because this is set in the 90s, the spookiest decade. And let's give it a give. To Florida we go to in this one. Why am I not surprised? Oh yeah. To the city of Eustis. Eustis sits on Lake Eustis. What are the odds? In central Florida, 45 minutes north of Orlando. Living there, a little over 20,000 people today. But we're not talking about today, we're talking about 90s, late 90s. Back then there was less than 15,000 people living in Eustis. And what else was there really to do except fight gators, in all the lakes and shit that were in that place, and to just generally embody Florida, man. Well, there was one thing to do, let me tell you. There was a spooky graveyard in Eustis called Greenwood Cemetery. I just said it was spooky, but wasn't spooky? You could say that. Apparently, it's haunted. Oh, gosh darn it. Since the late 1800s, the ghost of a woman has been seen. Ooh, and heard, ooh, weeping over a grave. What? Whoa, a person crying in a graveyard? Never heard of that before. Some spooky shit did actually happen there, we'll get to that later. So let's do the meat and poppies. I suppose it's Halloween, so let's talk pumpkins and bats. I don't know. And let's talk about Mr. Ferrell. Vampire Lord to you, mortal. He's pretty cool. I'm gonna join his clan. This is wannabe interview with the vampire.
Never knew what life was until it ran out in a red gush.
Reality, what we do in the shadows.
I think we drink virgin blood because it sounds cool.
What's crazy is I was just thinking the other day about this, bro. You remember when the vampire wave was just, it was just too much. They was going too far with every show coming out with something to do with vampires. I blame Twilight for a lot of that. Just seeing this reminds me of how far we've come away from that little time period where it was all about vampires, bro. Got on my nerves.
Because it sounds cool.
Rod Ferrell was born in the town of Murray, Kentucky, population about the same as Eustis, in the spring of 1980, only child to teenagers themselves. His dad was soon out of there, off to join the military, and never really took part in his life. So his mother, 18-year-old Sandra Gibson, moved herself and himself in with her parents, where they would live off and on for years, with mother Sandra working as an exotic dancer and occasional sex worker. Now Rod would later say he was abused by his granddad, but there's never really been anything backing that up. As she was a young one herself, she dabbled, maybe stuck the baby toe in vampirism. something, something. To be honest, she never really stopped. Years later, when we will get to what we're gonna get to, when she was 35 years old, she was charged with trying to sleep with a 14-year-old boy as part of a vampiric ritual, right? Where they would drink each other's blood and bang. Now, it never happened. She got arrested before, but we'll talk about that again later on. But she did plead guilty to that. So Rod was kind of screwed from the very get-go, really, to be fair. I mean, really, from a young age, believing in just mad shit. When Sandra's parents bought a house in Eustis, Florida, and she began seeing a fella there, that's when they would travel over and back the roughly 800-mile journey between the two. It was in Eustis also that Rod, ale owner dressed in black, met a girl named Heather Wendorf. And that's when the real trouble began. Heather was the daughter of Naomi, school volunteer, and Richard, a warehouse manager, younger by 2 years than her sister, Jennifer. Heather was a rebellious spirit. Some may say troubled, often fighting with her family.
That's all it takes. Another rebellious spirit to unlock the evil in somebody that they knew it was there, but for some reason it wasn't coming out. And here comes along this person and unlocks it. Hold on, here we go, y'all.
Over trivial shite, but when she met Rod, they fit together like pumpkin and spice. They met in school in Eustis and became close friends, but Rod would eventually move back to Murray, Kentucky, when Sandra broke up with her fella. And from there, Heather kept in touch, often running up large phone bills, which didn't really help family matters. Eventually, her parents stopped her basically from using the phone and calling Rod, which, according to Heather's older sister Jennifer, made her, quote, very angry. By this stage, though, Heather was a full-on member of the vampiric cult, where in black on her school bag was a hangman's noose hanging from a Barbie doll. You wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley. Rod, he bonded with his mother over like vampire movies, and she would say herself, she just dabbled. She went in headfirst, really. As did Rod. He became obsessed with a role-playing game called Vampire: The Masquerade. Wait, did I just say game? I meant real life. See, I've been mistaken this whole time. I've been calling him Rod. What is he, a fishing rod? Come on now. Get your shit together. His real name was Visago. He was, get this, over 500 years old, if you can believe that. That was also the name of his character in that role-playing game, Vampire: The Masquerade. I wonder which came first. Rod was the leader of this vampire clan emerging from Murray, Kentucky. This was something he was born into, saying he witnessed a woman.
So there are actually vampire clans out here in the world, and we don't even know about it. Like, them little tickers that go across the bottom of the TV when you watch the news? I feel like some of this stuff should be in there. You know what I mean? Like, this is important to know. When you move into a new area, you want to know where the vampires are. You want to know where the what you got, registered offenders. You want to know where they are. Like, that should be something known. I'm just saying.
Woman being sacrificed by vampires when he was just 5 years old.
Whenever I was 5, they chose me as the guardian of the Black Mass, and then they'd have to sacrifice a human to the guardian. So they sacrificed someone from me.
Sheesh.
And this is when we truly see the undead. The vampire clan was in Murray, Kentucky, and it started up really when Rod returned from Eustis, and he started converting other people in his high school. High school he'd later be expelled from. Namely, poor Scott Anderson, Rod's girlfriend Charity Keese, and Dana Cooper. All had difficult backgrounds and childhoods. All outcasts who found each other.
So what does this sound like to y'all so far, right? It sounds like, I know it's rooted around vampires, but don't this sound like gang stories? Like how kids grow up and they want to be a part, or they start a gang because maybe something at home, or they didn't feel loved, or they're looking for love, or they think that, you know what I'm saying? This sounds equivalent to that. That's what I keep comparing it to in my mind.
They would hang out, literally, in a rundown building, the Vampire Hotel, in the woods of Kentucky.
They not playing. They hanging upside down, bro.
There they would party, do drugs, and engage in the dark arts. When they weren't doing that, they were hanging out in graveyards, mausoleums. After all, local legends told of real vampires who had their graves in those very same woods, and sometimes rose up and stalked those very same ruins. Ooh. I mean, look at him. Who wouldn't follow his word? He studies the blade. Despite what this picture conveys, he was said to be actually very charismatic. Hence why I joined his clan, mid making this video. Sign me up, boss. They all had to do this crossover. Every person at the ceremony would slit 3 incisions into an arm and drain the blood into a cup. I mean, shit, yeah. Bit of water was added and then down the hatch. You're a vampire now and immortality is on the cards. They were all vampires now, with supernatural abilities. And so they'd suck each other's blood. Rod would use a razor and slash his arms to feed. They dressed all in black, dyed their hair black even. They'd run away from time to time, out all night, and would often stay with Dana Cooper, who was a few years older than them, and she had her own apartment. She was out of high school, working at Walmart, but still hung out with cringy teens. She didn't have many friends, so Rod sidled into her life. And so they would have their blood rituals, their drug orgies, their seances, and this would then they would graduate to vandalism around the city. They would continue to graduate, escalate, to mutilating and murdering small animals. And this would lead to horrific events at a local animal shelter in October 1996. When a worker arrived at the animal shelter on the morning of the 16th of October 1996, this worker, she found that somebody had let the dogs loose. You don't have to guess who. Some had escaped into the surrounding neighborhoods, others looked like they had been beaten. And then a field over, they found puppies that had just been completely mutilated. So that's when word began to spread about local cults. Okay, maybe I'm not too keen on this whole get-up now. Kinda look kinda stupid now. The sheriff knew one kid who dressed in black was weird as shit. And, cult sacrifice, hey, this is the 90s. All that kind of shit. It's like the X-Files. Rod was later arrested on charges of burglary, trespassing, and cruelty to animals. He would end up doing worse. Now, during all of this, Rod was still in contact with Heather. As much as he could until she was cut off by her parents. After that, they did the old-fashioned letters, and she told Rod that her parents were abusing her. It was bad. She was living in hell.
Oh, heck, I think I see where this might be going, bro. I hope they're not finna conspire to do something to her parents.
What do you think for a vampire would be? And she wanted to, nay, had to, run away, become a card-carrying member of Ferrell's vampire clan. And Rod, he couldn't resist being the hero, rescuing her. The dream. In November 1996, Rod, Charity, Scott, and Dana, they all drove to Eustis in Scott's car, a 12-hour...
This ain't finna be good. This ain't finna be good. I can already see this ain't finna be good.
...drive. Their mission? Operation Rescue Heather, and then move to New Orleans, the home of vampires, of course, and live together as a family, continuing to do their weird shit. They would all meet together in that spooky, haunted, wink wink, graveyard that day, Greenwood Cemetery, and there Heather herself would cross over, becoming a full-on vampire, a member of Rod's clan. Then Rod took some LSD, he was having a great time, and himself and his right-hand man drove to the Wendorf home on the 25th of November to steal their car for the trip to New Orleans. They entered the house through the unlocked garage, and Rod found a crowbar. Inside the house, Richard Wendorf was fast asleep on the couch, and while he was sawing wood, Rod beat him to death with the crowbar, fracturing his skull and his ribs. Pieces of skull were found a room over. He swung for the fences, said Scott. Moments later, his wife Naomi, who had been in the shower, came out and found Rod and Scott. Rod claimed he wasn't planning on killing her, but when she threw a hot cup of coffee on him, she had to go. Her head was then also bashed in with a crowbar. Richard was found with burn marks on him in the shape of a V. They then danced around their victims, stole some money, jewelry, and off they went. Heather was apparently unaware of all this. The clan then fled, all 5 of them now. Hours later, the Wendorfs were found by Heather's older sister, 17-year-old Jennifer, coming home from work.
My mother and my father just been killed. I just walked in the door. I don't know what happened. They are dead. Both of them are. Excuse me? Both your mother and your father. They are not breathing at all. I don't know. I can't get that close to my parents. Is anybody there with you, ma'am? I have no idea. I don't know who's in the house. Nobody's there with you that you brought with yourself. My sister's gone, though. I don't know where my sister is. She's only 15 years old.
The police quickly knew who they were looking for. After all, Jennifer knew the people Heather hung out with, who she idolized, and so warrants were issued for the gang. A clan of teenagers on the run in the Wendorf's 1993 Ford Explorer. They had dumped Scott's car along the way. Now, Heather would say she was entirely innocent. She had no idea what Rod...
Do y'all believe that? As I sip my drink. No, me neither. I feel like she knew she either like tricked him, not tricked him, but coerced him into doing it for feeling sorry for what she was going through. Or she was like, I know who we can kill. Let's go after them. Like, either she did it, was involved, or she did it. She got into his mind to the point where he would do it. It's either or, but yeah, she's just as guilty as the rest of them.
Was going to do. And I'll say it now, she was never she was never convicted of anything. But others say, including Heather's sister Jennifer, Heather knew a lot more about what happened to her parents and what was going to happen to her parents than she let on.
I remember telling him flat out, don't even go near my parents.
Why would you tell him not even to go near your parents?
Because he asked me not too long ago if I wanted my parents dead or alive, and I said straight out I wanted them alive.
When did he ask you this?
On Monday after school.
So on Monday after school, he talked to you about killing your parents?
Yes, and I said no. I said I wanted him to leave them alone.
So while they were driving from Florida to New Orleans, they needed a few dollars gas money. Hey, even vampires don't get Happy Meals for free. Shit. And so Charity called her grandmother, who lived in South Dakota, asking for, bit of combustion. Charity's gran knew they were on the run and promptly called the police. She told them where they were. The gang were then tricked into going into a motel in Baton Rouge, where the police were waiting for them. Rod would claim, though, a few times that he was psychic, that he could read and control minds. These are powers he got from drinking people's blood. So, just crapped out on him that day, obviously.
Like, you ever thought about that, though? Drinking somebody's blood. Like, if their blood has some kind of infection or whatever, disease, whatever, you're ingesting it, so don't you contract that too? I never really hear that amongst the vampire community. You know what I'm saying? I never hear that type of stuff, but I'm pretty sure you take on whatever that body sickness or weakness is. Like, but still in all, like, drinking somebody's blood? Sick.
They were arrested 4 days after the murders. Arrested was Rod Ferrell, 16, Scott Anderson, 17, Charity Reese, 16, Dana Cooper, 19, and Heather Wendorf, 15. Rod was a big fan of the attention, and this quickly became a circus. It was about as ridiculous as I look right now. Rod would claim at one point
He keep doing all that kissing on the window. He gonna entice one of them prisoners, bro. You better calm it down. It's gonna be different in there.
that the murders were committed by a rival gang in Murray, Kentucky, that he himself was innocent. He had no part in it. Vampires are all over the place just doing this shit. There were actually other vampires in Murray. One of that other clan was the person who Sandra was, trying to bang to do the crossing over thing. She was 35. He was 14. This is a letter she wrote to that child, vampire child. It's yikes. I longed to be near you, for your embrace. Yes, to become a vampire, a part of the family, immortal and truly yours forever. I only hope that one day you will once again return to Murray. You will then come for me and cross me over, and I will be your bride for eternity, and you, my sire. Okay, nope, not having it, not having this at all. This is just toilet paper. How do I take this shit off?
Wow.
All right. I'm not going to sugarcoat this thing, buddy, because you know what you've done.
Pretty simple thought.
The guys from Lake City, the detectives are on their way here. They'll probably be here around 6 or 7.
Is it actually possible for someone my age to get like a death penalty?
It depends. I don't know what the laws are in Florida. When you're 16 years old in this state, you can be tried as an adult, and you're subject to adult penalties.
That's what I was thinking. When I'm done, if I wasn't adult, I would get a death penalty.
Sure.
So I was kind of hoping, and I was like,
Yo, he's sitting here talking like it's cool. Wow, this is cool. Like, he's really thinking this is cool. So I'm thinking, if you think I may get the death penalty, like a surprise at the bottom of a cereal box or something. Like, he's anxious to know. Yeah, he's off of it. He's sick.
so you just gotta have
Probably going to entail the death penalty.
I'm sorry, this is just like a big fucking joke. My whole life seems like a dream, so my childhood was taken away at 5. I don't know whether I'm asleep or dreaming anymore, so
What?
whatever. Well, I know I can wake up in 5 minutes.
Did y'all hear that? He said my childhood was taken away from me when I was young, so this all feels like a joke. I don't know whether I'm sleeping or dreaming. Feels like a dream to me. Like, I'm telling you, man, this dude here, they need to check his psyche out. Already, you think you're a vampire, number one. You can tell he didn't have no family because nobody didn't really try to seek him some help. That's what he needed.
I can assure you it's not a dream.
So I felt pretty good.
Anything else you want to add?
I got a question for y'all.
Good.
You seriously think I'm fucked?
Hard to tell. We can't guess the system.
I'm fucked.
Rod would later plead guilty, hoping to avoid the death penalty, saying everyone was innocent except
But you're immortal, though, right? That death doesn't. You're a vampire, right?
for himself and Scott, but Scott was just an accessory.
And I didn't stop because he was still like breathing and stuff. I just kept beating him. Just
Lying right there on the couch.
because it was as he started to turn around, I saw he was coming out, and I just boom, right across the temple of the head. It knocked him cold. And while he was cold, I figured, now remember, because if he gets up, I'm a fucking dead motherfucker.
Not doing anything. Stop you from doing it. Watched you. He just
Because I watched him smile.
You never rush, obviously, to him. Is that the kind of smile you're referring to?
He was like, just really like a happy, almost like a kid amusement park for the first time.
Before we get to Rod's trial, let me sum up what happened to the other members of the clan. Charity got 10 years. Dana got 17 years. Heather, she was arrested, but the prosecution declined to press anything, so she was free. Controversial to this day, the sheriff at the time thought she should have been charged. Also, Scott's involvement has always been a bit unsure about. Him and Rod both said he was merely in the house. He didn't actually attack the Wendorfs. Regardless, he was sentenced to life in prison. Rod went on trial in February 1998. His defense was insanity.
Would you
See, this is the scary thing about this, bro. Somebody could become friends with your kid today and possibly influence them to throw their entire life away. For getting inside their head, getting them to believe in this cult and thinking that they're part of something that is greater than them and can end up causing them to throw their whole life. These are things I'm afraid of. These are things people think about. May not necessarily have to be vampire situation, but anything, man, anything. This is a true test to show you of what the possibility can happen when your kids, hang around the wrong people and are easily influenced. It's scary.
tell the court about the Wendorfs and what you feel at this point?
There's a lot about life in general that I'm still confused about now, but the fact is I myself was still under the assumption of what Heather had kind of ingrained in my head at that time. And no one had given me anything about, they'd given me the fact about their house and about where they worked and so forth like that, but nothing about the fact that they had value as people or that they were really even human. In fact, most people referred to them as, you know, the victims, not as anything that would be described as even human. But once the trial and all started, they started producing things about it. And also, William Wendorf, I had kind of looked at him and just the expressions that was on his face kind of, I don't know.
The judge, despite his plea, sentenced him to death, and he was the youngest inmate on death row.
And it's not so hard for some of us to understand how a person like Rod Ferrell, with one of the most dysfunctional family environments anyone could ever be cursed to be raised in, would have turned out in such a manner. In some respects, I think Mr. Ferrell's mother, Mrs. Gibson, should be on trial for some of this. At every stage of the way, she thwarted every attempt to find Mr. Ferrell the psychological help that he needed. Purposefully, advertently, she kept him from receiving the help that he so desperately required. Rod, I say to you, I think you're a disturbed young man. I think your family failed you. I think society failed you. But I also am here to tell you, in the considered judgment of this court, a troubled and disturbed youth cannot serve as an excuse for cold-blooded, premeditated murder, such as you perpetrated upon the Wendorfs in this case. It is hereby ordered and adjudged, Roderick Justin Ferrell, for the murder of Richard Wendorf, you are hereby sentenced to death. It is further ordered and adjudged, Roderick Justin Ferrell, for the murder of Naomi McQueen, you are here.
He looked like he's numb. He looked like he know what was coming. Lawyers probably prepped him for it, probably told him, listen, bro, this is going to be you're probably going to get the death penalty. Look at him, bro. He seems like he's in another universe. His mind is gone. This is crazy.
Hereby sentenced to death.
Whew.
He was the youngest on death row until late 2000, when both him and Scott were resentenced. Scott instead got 40 years, not life. Rod got life. instead of death row. It's such a bizarre tale of vampires. Great, yeah, it's a perfect story for Halloween, and these are people who took Halloween a bit too far. I mean, they were all from dysfunctional families, they bonded over this. Pity it wasn't, something, you know, good, instead of what it was.
I had decided to take the, darker path, the evil path. I found that more exciting. If it wouldn't have been the Wendorfs, at the rate I was going, it would have been somebody, if not more people.
Rod Ferrell. Quite the character. Perfect Halloween costume, guys. Look at me. Look at this guy. Cool dude.
Man. Bro. And I know this is a messed up thing to say right now, but just think about this, bro. This could be happening in your own neighborhood. Somewhere a few houses down. Could be somebody that's into something like this. Kid, teenager, adult. You just don't know. So when you open that door to step outside, bro, think about that. Think about it. You know? When you meet somebody, think about what they could be into. That's what I'm saying, man. Vet people out. I ain't telling you not to meet new people and stuff like that, but make sure you send them through an extensive, vet process where you vet them out and make sure they are who they say they are. And their intentions are as pure as they say they are. Scary stuff out there like this. It's your boy L, man. Y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you think. And stick around and stay tuned, man. Until next when I'm gone. Peace.